Starting us off with number 10 are the pink and white terraces in New Zealand. When I saw images of this for the first time, I honestly thought an artist had just painted it from his imagination. They honestly look like pink ice frozen in steps like a lava flow. Did that image only make sense in my head? Damn it. Anyway, the pink and white terraces used to be the largest silica sinter deposits on Earth. They were formed by upwelling geothermal springs that contained silica-filled chloride water. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, don't worry about it. The springs in the terrace were around 1,200 meters, which is around 3,900 feet. However, on June 10, 1886, Mount Tarawera erupted and sent out huge red-hot boulders and black ash that covered the whole area. Where the terraces used to be now had a massive 100-meter deep crater instead, which is now known as Lake Rotomahana. Honestly, I really wish I had seen this, but obviously I wasn't even alive when they were here, let alone when they were destroyed, so I had no chance. Coming in at number 9 are the Guaíra Falls. Now these falls are located on the border of Paraguay and Brazil. Back in its heyday, it was probably the single most powerful cataract in the world regarding volume, with 1,750,000 cubic feet of water passing through it every single second. That's 12 times the level in Victoria Falls and double the flow of Niagara Falls. The area contained around 18 falls and had a drop of 375 feet. They say it was so loud you could hear it from 20 miles away. I'm shook. Sadly, this wonder ceased to exist in 1982 because the Paraná River was dammed in order to create a reservoir and the waterfalls were drowned by the Itaipu Dam. The dam was part of the world's largest hydroelectric project at the time, and it's ironic how we had to essentially wipe out a natural wonder of the world in the pursuit of sustainably using energy on this earth. Oxymoron, am I right? At number 8, we have the Crystal Palace. Built in Hyde Park, London, in order to house the Great Exhibition of 1851, the Crystal Palace was 92,000 meters squared, 39 meters tall, and 564 meters long. To put those numbers in context, that's around 3 times bigger than St. Paul's Cathedral. The structure was made from plates of glass and cast iron, and it was the biggest structure made from glass ever seen in a building. The building actually had no lights inside because of all the natural light that came through, which sort of makes me wonder how people saw in there at night, but let's move on. The Crystal Palace looks stunning in pictures. The Victorian architecture makes it seem like something from the gods, honestly, and it was apparently quite cheap to make considering how royal it ended up looking. When the exhibition ended, it was relocated and rebuilt next to Sydenham Hill, and it stayed there for 82 years before being destroyed by a fire in 1936. I really want them to rebuild this. I really hope they do. I doubt they will because I feel like there's no real reason to, but I feel like they really should. It was gorgeous, let's face it. Filling our number 7 slot are the Sutro Baths. Owned and built by the former mayor of San Francisco, Adolf Sutro, his eccentric project ended up becoming the world's largest indoor swimming pool, opening its doors in 1896. The place had an ice rink, 6 saltwater pools all heated to different temperatures, bougie, and a 2,700-seat amphitheater. It even had natural history exhibits and fine art displayed everywhere. Like, I would totally go there if it still existed, 100%. But upkeep of the Sutro Baths cost a lot of money and it just wasn't financially viable. After Sutro died, his family turned the place into other amenities in order to gain more visitors, but that failed too, and his grandson sold the place in 1952. They were done for good in 1966 when the whole place burned down in a suspicious fire. This all just screams shady, and maybe the plot of a 1950s noir movie. Either way, the baths are no longer there, but people still occasionally visit its ruins. Now at number 6 is the original Pennsylvania Station. These days, Grand Central is that one station you have to go see for all its beauty, but back in the day it was Penn Station. The station used to have soaring archways, domed ceilings, and Greek Parthenon-looking columns. The pictures are honestly stunning, and I know I've said that about like 3 things on this list already, but believe me, they were stunning. At its peak, the station used to get 100 million passengers a year in the mid-40s. But 15 years later, the creation of the interstate highway system made the visitor toll drop considerably. The station was eventually demolished in 1963, and the New York Times actually questioned how on earth the city could permit this monumental act of vandalism against one of the largest and finest landmarks of its age of Roman elegance. During the decade it was demolished, Grand Central Terminal actually became protected under New York City's Landmarks Preservation Act. One had to go down so the other could survive, I guess. Having one is still better than having none. Coming in at number 5 is Heritage USA. Now this used to be an American Christian themed water park, theme park, and residential area in South Carolina. That's the first time I've heard of a religiously themed water park, but there's a first for everything, evidently. Built in 1978 by Pentecostals televangelist Tammy Faye and Jim Baker, who were also the founders of the PTL Club. The park stood at 2,300 acres and it was 25 times bigger than Disneyland, and Disneyland is pretty big as it is. The place had condos, hotels, campgrounds, a shopping mall, a skating rink, a Bible and evangelism school, and even a cable television production studio. I mean, this could be a mini functioning town if it wanted to be. On top of that, Heritage USA used to rack in about 6 million visitors a year by the mid-80s. But after 1987, news erupted of Jim Baker's sexual encounters with his PTL employees and him using the church's funds to cover it up. He was found guilty of 24 charges regarding mismanagement of PTL's funds, and that was the shutdown of the place. And if that wasn't bad enough, a hurricane in 1989 also destroyed a lot of the park's infrastructure, and then it was closed down for good. At number 4 are the Buddhas of Bamiyan. Now the Buddhas were carved in the side of a cliff in the Bamiyan Valley in central Afghanistan way back in the 6th century. The monuments are of Gautam Buddha and were done in the style of Gandhara art. The smaller one was built in 507 CE, standing at 35 meters tall, whereas the larger one was built in 554 CE and stood at 53 meters tall. The main bodies of the Buddhas were carved straight from the sandstone cliffs, but the details were modeled from a mixture of straw and mud coated with stucco. A lot of the details of the monuments had worn away before their destruction in March of 2001. They were dynamited and destroyed over a period of several weeks by the Taliban, who were given orders declaring the Buddhas were idols. But do not fret, it was a big loss, but the Japanese government and other organizations have committed to rebuilding the UNESCO World Heritage Site, so hopefully we'll be seeing a rebuilt version in the upcoming years. Fingers crossed. Filling our number 3 slot is the Chacaltaya Glacier in Bolivia. Now this glacier was home to the world's highest lift-served ski resort at one point, and it was also Bolivia's only ski resort. Because of the extremely high altitude, only real thrill seekers and serious skiers made the journey to the glacier, which was only accessible by a dirt road. You can literally ski above the clouds at 17,388 feet. The rope tow was built in 1939, and the lift used to only operate on weekends between November and March. However, by the 1990s, experts started noticing the glacier's ice was melting at a really rapid rate. They gave it till 2015 before the ice melted completely, but they were way off. By 2009, the ski run disappeared for good. That sucked not just for avid winter sport goers, but for the people living in and around the glacier, because it served as a source of hydroelectric power and drinking water for 80 million people. Climate change is real, people. It is a thing. It is happening. Now at number 2 is the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Built between 284 and 246 BC, the lighthouse was built by the Ptolemaic Kingdom, and it was said to be 100 meters tall. The lighthouse took 12 years to finish building, and it was actually the lighthouse that later served as the prototype for all lighthouses. The light at the top was produced by a furnace, and the whole tower itself was built mostly with limestone. But sadly, the lighthouse was quite badly damaged in an earthquake in 956, then by another earthquake in 1303, and then by another one in 1323. Any remnant left of the lighthouse also disappeared by 1480, when the Sultan built a fort on top of the platform where the lighthouse used to stand. However, not all was lost. In 1994, French archaeologists actually found some of its remains on the floor of Alexandria's eastern harbour, which they brought up and are now lying on the harbour for people to see. The Egyptian Ministry of State Antiquities had plans to turn the area into an underwater museum, and whether that happens or not is still unclear, since the plan was originally made 3 years ago and nothing has really happened as of yet. And finally, at number number 1 is the Azure window, and I'm pretty sure everyone's seen pictures of this online on a lot of tourism postcards and even in a bunch of movie scenes. The Azure window used to be a natural 28-meter tall arch located on the island of Gozo in Malta. The arch was most likely created in the 19th century by the collapse of a sea cave. Between the 90s and the 2000s, part of the top slab of the arch was seen collapsing, so the arch was getting wider and wider. Big pieces of the arch collapsed in 2012 and 2013, and its final collapse was on the 8th of March 2017 after many heavy storms. The pillar part of the arch gave way first, which then caused the top part of the arch to collapse. People said the deterioration was inevitable, which of course it was, but the collapse gained a lot of international attention and was apparently turned into a meme in Malta as well. At least they're finding humor in it.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Coral Castle. Located in Homestead, Florida, this beautiful rock garden was created by one man, and one man only. The garden is made up of more than 1,000 tons of sedimentary rock, which was sculpted into different shapes, like a crescent moon. Some were even made into chairs and tables. Legend goes that this man built the structure after being abandoned by his lover on their wedding day. He channeled his heartache into building this structure to prove to her that he could do something amazing. Here's the thing. This man was very tiny. He weighed only 100 pounds, and he had only a 4th grade education. So how did he manage to build such an intricate structure by himself? Scientists claim that even Albert Einstein couldn't have done it. In our 9th spot, we have Stonehenge. Located in Wiltshire, England, the Stonehenge is one of UK's most famous landmarks. It consists of a bunch of standing stones in a ring, with some stones placed on top of each other. It's theorized that it took builders 1,500 years to build it. Now, what makes this so mysterious is the fact that we don't know why it was built in the first place. Many scholars agree that Stonehenge was once a burial ground, but what else? They think maybe it was a place of worship, or maybe it was just like a cool project. They're like, yo, can we just like stack the stones? It'll look sick, I promise. We don't know. Also, we don't know how they managed to build it in the first place without access to modern technology. Those stones weigh around 25 tons. How did they get them there? And then up in that position, and then rocks on top of that. It's just a secret we may never know. Moving on, at number 8, we have the pyramids. Of course the pyramids were going to be on this list, how couldn't they? They are another one of those structures that we have no clue how they built them. Seriously, how were the giant blocks moved and put into place? Not only that, but a lot of crypts in the pyramids still remain unexplored. There's said to be tons of hidden artifacts and scrolls that we just haven't found yet. That could give us more information on ancient Egypt. But what we do know, which is kind of an interesting fact, is that Egyptians might have used the Great Pyramid of Giza as a sundial, enabling them to tell time by just looking at its shadow. Coming in at number 7, we have Göbekli Tepe. Constructed over 11,000 years ago, this landmark located in southeastern Turkey was originally just thought to be the remains of an old cemetery. However, upon excavating the land, they discovered more than 200 pillars in about 20 circles. The pillars are around 20 feet tall and weigh up to 10 tons. Some of the pillars have animal shapes carved into them. But here's the thing, we haven't even excavated it all yet. It's theorized that we could be digging for another 50 years before uncovering the rest of the structure. What's weird is that this monument was built during a time when metal tools and pottery had not been developed yet. So this whole thing just remains a big mystery filled with secrets. In our 6th spot, we have the Lost City. Just off the coast of the Japanese island Yonaguni lies a city completely sunken underwater. There are complete pyramids, ruins of a castle, structures etched with faces, and rock sculptures that look like animals all underwater. It's theorized that a terrible earthquake caused the city to be engulfed by water. But to this day, we don't know the true origins of this mysterious underwater city. The monument is made up of a series of rock formations including carved steps, stone pillars, and a triangular formation now known as the Turtle. because of its appearance. Now, this also remains a mystery because we don't know if it was man-made or made naturally. Some scientists think that the currents and erosions carved the formations out of the ocean floor. Others claim that the straight edges and 90-degree angles make it seem like it was man-made. Who knows? But if it was man-made, what was its purpose? We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Great Sphinx of Giza. The Sphinx is a massive structure with a body of a lion and a head and face of a human. It is around 240 feet long, 20 feet wide, and 66 feet tall. Most researchers believe that the Sphinx was meant to act as a guardian for the pharaoh Khafra, whose pyramid is located beside it. It may actually be his face that is on the Sphinx. But like much of these other structures, we truly don't know. Count how many times I say that in this video. Maybe it contains some hidden secrets that we just haven't discovered yet. In our 4th spot, we have the Saxe woman, and I know what it sounds like, but that's how you pronounce it, so just, I know. Located in Peru, this structure is a series of strange stone walls made from 200-ton blocks of rock and limestone. The 3 stone walls are arranged in a zigzag pattern along the hillside. Close to the structure, a bunch of underground catacombs have been found, which were said to be like little secret passageways. Scientists originally believed that this structure was some sort of fortress, but now it's thought that it was used more symbolically. In fact, if you look at it from above, the walls seem to form the shape of a cougar head. Another mystery is how it was built. The stones fit together perfectly. In fact, not even a sheet of paper can fit in the gaps between them. How did they do this? And how did they transport the stones? Making our way down the list, number 3, we have Easter Island. The island where it's Easter all year round. I just made that up. Easter Island is a volcanic island located in Polynesia. This island is best known for its huge statues found all over the island, and there are said to be more than 900 of them on the island. Now, these statues are made from solidified volcanic ash and are said to take up to a year to make, for just one. So how did they manage to build hundreds of them? We don't know. We got our theories. Coming in at number 2, we have Newgrange. Newgrange is said to be the oldest and most famous prehistoric site in all of Ireland. Built around 3100 BC, Newgrange is a round structure made out of wood, clay, and stone. The roof is completely covered in grass. Inside the structure is a long passage that leads to a cross-shaped chamber. This is said to have been a tomb. Now, a lot of thought and detail went into building this. I mean, it's completely waterproof, still to this day it is, and the entrance of the tomb was positioned in a way so that during the winter solstice, the sun would beat in through the opening and down the passageway. Now, what we need to know is who this tomb was built for and why. Whoever it was, they had to have been pretty significant. And in our number 1 spot, we have the Georgia Guidestones. Built in 1979 by a man who went by the name R.C. Christian, this monument consists of 4 monolithic slabs made of granite standing upright. The slabs contain inscriptions in 8 different languages, discuss a 10-point plan to ensure peace on Earth. It's also weird saying things like maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. What is that supposed to mean? Really, what? Here's the thing. Since the construction of the structure, R.C. Christian has not spoken up about it. One theory is that it was created in case of a nuclear apocalypse. It would then guide people on how to rebuild society. It's so weird and so mysterious.
At number 10, Bohemian Grove. The only way you're getting to this super exclusive club is if you're a very powerful man. Bohemian Grove is a private club for the most powerful men in the US, located on a restricted 2,700-acre campground on Bohemian Ave in Monte Rio, California. Every July, its members travel to the grounds for a 2-week retreat to relax and specifically not network. There is little known about what happens during the retreat. One thing powerful men are good at is keeping things hidden. The club's all-male membership includes many artists, musicians, prominent business leaders, government officials, former presidents, and senior media executives. Members are also allowed to bring guests and even rent out the grounds for its off-season private events. If your interest has been sparked, good luck getting anywhere near Bohemian Grove. It's protected by security year-round, with the club employing ex-military personnel to secure the area. They also utilize high-end equipment like thermal cameras and vibration sensing alarm systems. Some presidents that have visited are George Bush, Richard Nixon, and Ronald Reagan. Basically, there's no chance of getting in unless you have some pretty important friends. Number 9. The Coca-Cola Vault. Coca-Cola is one of the biggest brands in the world. The corporation was founded in 1892, so the recipe has been around for over 120 years. It definitely has undergone some tweaks since the 1800s, but now it doesn't contain illegal substances, so it really only changed for the better. The secret formula is located inside World of Coca-Cola in Atlanta, Georgia. While you can absolutely visit the museum itself, showcasing the history of the company, the actual vault that holds the formula is off limits. The actual recipe is located inside of a metal box inside of a 6.6-foot high vault, which is then further protected by a barrier, and the entire area has surveillance with armed guards. The door to the vault can only be opened by a keypad with a hand scanner. It sounds a bit extreme to take all these measures over the recipe for Coke, but with the company bringing in over $42 billion in 2022, the extra security makes total sense. I never thought about seeing the formula of Coke, but now that I know it's in a highly guarded fancy safe, I've never wanted to see something more. Number 8. Granite Mountain Records Vault. The world's largest collection of genealogical records lives in a secure vault located quite literally in the mountains near Salt Lake City, Utah. The Granite Mountain Records Vault was built in 1965 by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The purpose of the vault is to preserve and protect records of importance to the church, like its vast collection of family history microfilms. This is an extremely secure facility with no public access allowed. What we do know is that it's home to 2.4 million rolls of microfilm containing approximately 3.5 billion images of family history records. I guess when the Mormon Church says they're a family-centered faith, they aren't kidding. The church is collecting all of these microfilmed images in order to digitize them and turn them into digital records available through FamilySearch.org. Some people think there is more going on in that facility than we're being told, with conspiracy theories and suspicions surrounding the whole operation. The vault is located under 700 feet of solid mountain stone with 3 tunnels and 4 cross tunnels inside, spanning over 65,000 square feet. They also have reinforced entrance doors that weigh 14 tons each and were said to be able to withstand a nuclear blast. These factors are what really led people to being skeptical of their operations, because A, that's a lot of room for converting microfilms, B, that's a lot of security for the names of the deceased, and C, more recent images of the vault seem to show they've expanded the facility to now have 5 entrances instead of 3. Some thoughts surrounding what else is stored there are significant artifacts, ancient relics, or even a bunker. Maybe the expansion is just for expanding operations, but who knows, maybe they really are hiding something else in that vault. At number 7, Area 51. The widely known name refers to that of a highly classified United States Air Force facility located in Nevada, which is highly prohibited to those without authorization. The fact that it's a government facility that is super off limits and highly guarded has led people to famously associate Area 51 with aliens. For decades now, the facility has been the eye of a conspiracy theory storm, with people convinced that aliens and their technology exist behind its walls. Being told you can't go somewhere or that something is a secret only makes you more interested to know about it. There have been many books, TV shows, and even plans online for massive raids trying to get a glimpse of what lies beyond the very prominent warning signs, to no success. Upon looking at Area 51, it appears like the only protection against unwanted guests is the many warning signs, but apparently not a single thing goes unnoticed. Beyond the gates, cameras see every angle, watching everything below. Locals say the base knows every desert tortoise and jackrabbit that hops the fence. No matter how interested you may be, only a select few have access to what goes on there, causing so many theories and speculations. Who knows, maybe it's alien experiments, maybe it's the most mundane, boring work we could ever imagine. Either way, we aren't going to be finding out anytime soon. Number 6. Cheyenne Mountain Complex. It's located at Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station, or CMAF, within the Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The CMAF falls under Air Force Base Command and hosts the activities of several tenant units. At the height of the Cold War, the idea of a hardened command center was thought of as a defense against long-range Soviet bombers. The Army Corps of Engineers supervised the excavation of Cheyenne Mountain and the construction of an operational center. The facility became fully operational as the NORAD Combat Operations Center in early 1967. Since it's a big old place for government stuff, stuff, Cheyenne Mountain Complex is protected and closed to the public. It's located under 2,000 feet of granite with 6 tunnels, each 3 stories tall. It's also secured against seismic activity and nuclear explosions. So basically, it's pretty high on the list of places I would like to be during a zombie apocalypse. It has 2 main blast doors which are 3.5 feet thick and weigh over 20 tons. These massive doors close in times of emergency and have only been shut once during 9/11. Since this complex is home to so many important operations like a space control center and national warning facility, it's locked and guarded to the nines. That being said, since we know some of what's going on down there, it's far less desirable to visit. At number 5, Tillamook Rock Lighthouse. Located on the northern Oregon coast of the United States, also known as Terrible Tilly or just Tilly, this is one lighthouse that you can't visit. Tilly gained its nickname from the ferocious storms and difficulties facing the lighthouse keepers. Tillamook Rock rises nearly 100 feet from the sea and is located 20 miles south of the mouth of the Columbian River. Building the lighthouse in the first place was rough. The first person hired to take on the project was master mason and lighthouse builder John Trewavis. Unfortunately, John ended up being swept out to sea after falling off the rock before he could get far. After this incident, craftsmen were reluctant to work on the lighthouse, but construction foreman Charles Ballantyne stepped up with a crew of 8. Once on the rock, the men worked under horrible conditions. One day the wind was so bad it swept away their supply house and left workers stranded for 16 days. After preparing the rock, the construction of Tilly took over 100 days to complete. Tillamook Rock Lighthouse began operations in January 1881. With a starting budget of just $50,000, Tilly cost closer to $125,000 in the end. Duty at Tillamook Rock meant isolation, horrible storms, and hazardous environment. On top of that, supplies sent to the rock were often delayed for days or even weeks. It was decommissioned in 1957 due to the extensive wear and tear. The lighthouse has bounced between a few private owners since shutting off its light. Even if you wanted to visit Tilly today, you'd have to resort to a helicopter because of the harsh waters. The rock is even off limits to its owners come time for the seabird nesting season. At number 4, Dulce Base. Like Area 51, Dulce Base is the subject of conspiracy theories claiming that a jointly operated human and alien underground facility exists. Apparently, the facility lies under the Archuleta Mesa Mountain on the Colorado-New Mexico border near the town of Dulce, New Mexico. On the surface, Dulce is just your average small town, so small it doesn't even have a single traffic light. According to the bizarre claims, the small town is just the tip of the iceberg. The alleged massive underground facility is said to be home to unimaginable experiments and technologies. For the extreme alien believers, we are all overlooking a high-tech world full of aliens. According to the conspiracy theorists, the Dulce subterranean base is a 7-story compound that houses human-animal hybrids, human-alien hybrids, and extremely advanced technologies. It is possible that it's all made up, but if the government really was experimenting with aliens, it would make sense that they do it under a mountain near a very small town. One thing I find interesting about the Dulce base is that these theories are not new. First claims of the base's existence date all the way back to the 1930s. The rumors of alien intervention didn't start up until the 70s when a former state police trooper named Gabe Valdez documented unexplained cattle mutilations in the area. There have also been claims of UFO sightings and other paranormal activity in the area over the years. Secret aliens or not, it sounds like there's definitely something strange going on in Dulce that I don't want to look any further into. Number 3, Fort Knox. I bet you've heard at least once in your life someone make a reference to something being harder to get into than Fort Knox, and there's a reason for this. Fort Knox is a United States Army installation in Kentucky, south of Louisville. The reason it's so hard to get into Fort Knox is because of the Bullion Depository, a fortified vault located adjacent to the Fort Knox Army Post. It's operated by the United States Mint Police, and it's super well known for its physical security. The depository was built back in 1936 and is operated by the United States Department of the Treasury. The excessive security is in place because it's home to over half the entire country's gold reserves. Early shipments of gold totaling almost 13,000 metric tons were escorted by combat cars to the depository. In the past, it's also been home to other precious items like the Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence. Fort Knox is so heavily protected and secure that the vicinity is off limits to visitors. Even the president has limitations. In fact, only one president has ever been allowed entry, and that was Franklin Roosevelt back in 1943. Along with the heavy-duty physical barriers and fences, the government pays $5 million annually just for security. Number 2. North Brother Island. This tiny island in New York City is located smack dab in the middle of the East River between the Bronx and Rikers Island. It was the site of the infamous Riverside Hospital for quarantinable diseases. If you've ever heard of Typhoid Mary, this is the place where she spent her final days and finally succumbed to her namesake illness in 1938. After World War II, the island was repurposed as housing for veterans and their families. Then it transitioned to being a rehabilitation center for adolescent substance use, which ended up closing in the 60s amid allegations of fraud. After being home to many dark but important facilities, the entire North Brothers Island was closed permanently to the public and became a bird sanctuary. That being said, photographer Christopher Payne was able to go to the island in 2006 after being granted access by the New York City Department of Recreation. The photos he captured of the island are a little haunting, especially with its history of rehab centers and hospitals for the disease. These photos are interesting to see, but do not make me want to visit the abandoned island even if I could. The whole place looks like it's been taken over by, well, birds, and it's crazy that it's so close to the hustle and bustle of the city. Many people have stepped foot on the North Brother Island over the years, but now the only way to get a glimpse is through Payne's photos or if you have wings and a beak. And at number 1, Niihau Island. This island has been privately owned for over 100 years with only an estimated 170 residents. The invite-only island sparked so much interest from travelers across the world due to its extreme exclusivity, commonly referred to as Hawaii's Forbidden Island. It is the westernmost main and 7th largest inhabited island in all of Hawaii. Niihau is also a crucial habitat for some endangered plant species. The island was purchased by Elizabeth St. Clair in 1864 for just $10,000, which would be the equivalent to about $170,000 in 2021. St. Clair purchased it from the Kingdom of Hawaii, and the ownership has been passed down for generations, currently belonging to her grandsons, the Robinson brothers. The island is off limits to all outsiders unless the brothers Bruce and Keith personally invite you for a visit. The people of Niihau are noted for their remarkable craftsmanship and mainly speak in Hawaiian. The reason they have kept the island off limits to the outside world is due to a promise made to a former Hawaiian king. The promise was to protect the island from the mainland and the rest of the world to maintain the beloved heritage, and that's exactly what they've done. To this day, Niihau has rejected the use of modern technologies and survives without electricity, running water, internet, doors, restaurants, paved roads, or cars. A modern-day ancient civilization. It would be fascinating to see how they do things over on Niihau, but it's nice to know they've kept their promise for so long.
And we're starting off this list with the Potawatomi County Jail located in Council Bluffs, Iowa. It was built in 1885 and is known as the squirrel cage, or at least it used to be, due to its unique design. Instead of traditional cells, the jail featured a rotating circular cage. The design was kind of revolutionary for the time. It was intended to increase security and allow for better surveillance of the inmates, but was ultimately discontinued due to its impracticalities. Some prisoners were also severely harmed in the rotating contraption. So basically there was these cylindrical cages that prisoners' cells were located in. They each had one opening, and the jailer turned this crank and the cell would rotate to either face the opening or the enclosed part of the cage. It was pretty dangerous, and a lot of prisoners lost limbs. So yeah, not a place you would have wanted to end up in. Despite being decommissioned in 1969, many people believe that this county jail is haunted. The former jail was also featured in Ghost Adventures, so if you want to learn more about it, you can check that episode out. At number 9, we have the Orleans Parish Prison. Orleans Parish Prison, located in New Orleans, Louisiana, is regarded as one of the worst prisons in the United States and was one of the most heavily impacted facilities during Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The prison has a violent reputation and has been scrutinized for being understaffed, filthy. Probably the most infamous incident at the prison, though, took place during Hurricane Katrina. Roughly 650 prisoners were left behind in the prison after the hurricane hit, and the conditions inside quickly deteriorated. Of course, as the floodwaters rose and power was lost, many inmates were left without food, water, basic necessities, and some were forced to drink from toilets in order to survive. It's believed that over 500 prisoners lost their lives. The State Correctional Institution, also known as Western Penitentiary in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This former prison has been left abandoned since 2017 and is known for a particularly dark incident that took place in 1987. A fire broke out in one of the prison's cell blocks, causing significant damage and endangering the lives of inmates and staff. That's what fire does. It's dangerous. It was later revealed, though, that the fire had been deliberately started by a group of guards in response to a protest by inmates. The incident happened when a group of inmates began protesting poor conditions and mistreatment at the facility, including overcrowding and limited access to basic necessities. In response, a group of guards reportedly entered the cell block and set fire to a pile of garbage, causing the blaze to quickly spread throughout the area. Inmates were left trapped in their cells, and smoke and flames engulfed the block. Many suffered smoke inhalation and other injuries as a result. Nevada State Prison. This former prison started operation in 1862 and has been left abandoned since 2012. Located in Carson City, Nevada State Prison was known for its harsh conditions, numerous executions, and some of its infamous inmates. Prison's long history has this association with death and despair, and it's led a lot of people to believe it could be haunted. Numerous reports of paranormal activity have been documented by visitors and employees of the prison. Strange sounds, eerie voices, and unexplained footsteps have all been discussed, particularly in the cell blocks, the execution chamber. Visitors have also reported feeling a sense of unease or, being watched by mysterious eyes. And some have even claimed to have seen apparitions of former inmates or guards. One of the most famous ghosts believed to haunt the prison is that of a former inmate who was executed by hanging in the 19th century. Many visitors have also reported seeing his ghost in the execution chamber or hearing his disembodied voice. Other reported hauntings include a guard who was murdered by inmates in the 1950s. The prison's eerie reputation has drawn attention from a lot of ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts like Jack Baggins himself and his Ghost Adventures crew. Next up, we have the Old Essex County Jail. The Old Essex County Jail, located in Newark, New Jersey, was known for its harsh conditions and, again, brutal treatment of inmates. Today, many people believe that the jail is haunted by the spirits of those who died within the walls due to the extreme conditions and inhumane treatment of the former inmates. One of the main reasons why the Old Essex County Jail is considered haunted is the high number of deaths that occurred. The jail's overcrowded conditions, poor sanitation, and lack of medical care led to numerous outbreaks of disease, which claimed the lives of many inmates. Additionally, the jail was the site of several violent incidents. Trauma and, pain that happened within these walls, some say kind of left an imprint on the jail, leading to the supposed paranormal activity. And another factor that contributes to the possible haunting is the evidence of ghostly activity. If you want to call it evidence, it's people saying they've seen or heard things. Visitors and staff have reported hearing strange noises, whispers, all your classics. Some have even seen full-bodied apparitions, including the ghost of a former inmate who is said to have hung himself within his cell. Others have experienced sudden drops in temperature or seen unexplained orbs of light. I always find orbs kind of boring, but I don't know, that's just me. I want to see like a ghost, The point is, this site is now abandoned and technically prohibited, so enter at your own risk. The Missouri State Penitentiary. This former prison located in Jefferson City, Missouri, was operational for 168 years. Prison was notorious for overcrowding, inhumane conditions, and it had a very violent history, with numerous riots and incidents of inmate abuse reported throughout its existence. Today, many people believe that the Missouri State Penitentiary is haunted, with paranormal activity reported by visitors and staff. One of the most reported ghostly sightings is that of a shadowy figure who is said to haunt the gas chamber where he was executed. Other reported sightings include the ghosts of course, former inmates and guards. As I said before, the prison has a long and violent history, with countless inmates suffering and dying over its 168 years of operation. The prison was also the site of, again, numerous executions, with over 40 prisoners prisoners being put to death in the gas chamber alone. Next up is a pretty big one. It's Fremantle Prison. Fremantle Prison is a former maximum security prison located in Fremantle, Western Australia. A lot of supposedly haunted prisons in Australia, oddly enough. Like there's a ton. The prison was operational from 1855 to 1991 and housed some of the country's most notorious criminals. The prison is now a popular tourist attraction, but back when it was operational, probably not a place you'd want to go. And even still, many people believe that the Fremantle prison is haunted, with numerous reports of ghostly sightings and unexplained phenomena. One of the most commonly reported ghostly sightings is that of a former inmate who was executed at the prison in 1844. Visitors have reported seeing his ghostly figure walking the prison's corridors in the middle of the night. Other reported paranormal activity includes the sound of footsteps, slamming doors, and unexplained noises coming from empty cells. Visitors have also reported feeling a sense, again, of unease or being touched by unseen hands while in certain areas of the prison. Next up, we have another Australian prison, the Old Melbourne Gaol. This former prison located in Melbourne, Australia, was operational from 1845 until 1924. The prison is famous for its grim history, with over 130 prisoners executed on the gallows during its operation. And today, the prison is open to the public as a museum with guided tours offering visitors a glimpse into the lives of the prisoners who were incarcerated. But when it was operational as a prison, again, you would have been warned never to go near it. It housed some of Australia's most notorious criminals and was known for its inhumane conditions. Big surprise, surprise. Prisoners' cells were tiny and overcrowded, with up to 4 inmates crammed into a single cell. The prisoners were forced to sleep on hard wooden planks without any bedding. Sanitation was almost non-existent too, with only a few communal toilets available for hundreds of prisoners. The cells were rarely cleaned, and inmates were often left to live in filth, which resulted in the spread of disease and infection. And in terms of punishment, you had solitary confinement, flogging, or even hanging for the most serious of crimes. The gallows at the prison saw the execution of over 130 prisoners, making it one of the most notorious places of execution in Australian history, which is also why it's said to be one of the most haunted prisoners in Australia. The Atlanta Prison Farm is a former correctional facility located in Atlanta, Georgia. It's known for its tough conditions and forced labor practices. Today, the prison is abandoned, and many people believe it to be haunted. One of the most commonly reported paranormal occurrences at the Atlanta Prison Farm is the apparition of a former prisoner who was killed during a failed escape attempt. Visitors are reported seeing the ghostly figure of a man running through the prison's corridors before disappearing into the thin air. Some visitors to the prison have reported feeling a sense of unease or being touched, again, by people that aren't really there. There have also been reports of mysterious, again, orbs of light. I'm not too enthused about that, but people are really obsessed with, like, orbs. There's like orb enthusiasts out there. Figures are also seen appearing in photographs taken inside the prison. Despite the supposed paranormal activity at the prison, the Atlanta Prison Farm remains a popular destination for ghost hunters and urban explorers looking to experience the, haunted history firsthand. I'd actually like to go. I'd check it. I've never been to an abandoned, supposedly haunted place before, but, no one wants to go. Anyone want to go with me? Let me know in the comments. Probably won't happen, but, Garcia Moreno Prison, located in Quito, Ecuador, was once home to some of the most notorious criminals in the country's history. It was also violent and overcrowded, not a place I would have ever wanted to visit. Today, Garcia Moreno is well known for its haunted reputation. Many visitors and locals believe that the abandoned prison is haunted by the spirits of former inmates who suffered and died there. Some of the most commonly reported paranormal activity includes strange, weird noises, voices that are disembodied, and, just this eerie feeling of being watched. Visitors have also reported seeing ghostly figures and shadows moving throughout the prison, and the harsh living conditions, frequent outbreaks of violence, and numerous deaths that occurred within the prison are believed to have left a lingering presence of unrest and suffering. And it's interesting with this one too, because apparently it's abandoned, but a lot of the stuff the prisoners left behind are still there. It almost looks like people just suddenly disappeared. Despite being closed for several years, Garcia Moreno Prison continues to draw visitors who are interested in its macabre history and a chance to experience paranormal.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the Eiffel Tower. This iconic French landmark gets its name from Gustave Eiffel, the architect behind it. Don't know why I shouted his surname. He built in a private apartment at the top of the tower to entertain guests such as Thomas Edison. Over the years, many people offered Gustave a lot of money to rent the space, but he always refused. These days though, the apartment is open to the public to visit. When you get up there, you will find it decked out in an authentic 19th century interior with wax models of Gustave and friends. A little bit creepy, if I'm honest, those pictures. Moving on to number 9 now, we have the Hall of Records. I'm sure you'll all recognise this. It's Mount Rushmore, depicting the faces of 4 US presidents: George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and Theodore Roosevelt. Behind Abraham Lincoln's head, you can find a little known room known as the Hall of Records. This special vault was properly installed in 1998. It contains 16 porcelain panels depicting the construction of Mount Rushmore and also why those presidents were chosen. The room is not meant to be viewed by the general public, but is intended to be a sort of time capsule for the future. There are also copies in there of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. Next up at number 8 now, we have Club 33. Disneyland in California is a kid's paradise, and also pretty fun for big kids too, I guess. Alright, it's fun for everyone, but it's aimed at kids. Because of this, you won't find any places there really selling alcoholic drinks, except for Club 33. It lies behind an unmarked door in New Orleans Square. It's an exclusive, members-only club that charges people $25,000 to join, and then comes with an annual fee of $12,000. It does look very nice from the pictures, but I'll be honest, I'm probably going to stick to Splash Mountain. At number 7 now, we have the Cave of Evil Spirits. Unlike the ones we've talked about so far on this list, this is a natural room, otherwise known as a cave. Obviously. It can be found at Niagara Falls, tucked away down the road. It's not known to many members of the public. I've been to Niagara Falls 3 times now and had no idea of its existence. However, the Seneca tribe of Native Americans knew it all too well. They believed it contained the trapped souls of evil spirits, hence its name. Apparently, warriors who entered the cave without fear were deemed ready for battle. Would you guys want to step inside? Moving on to number 6 now, we have the Statue of Liberty's torch. Today, visitors can climb up inside this famous New York monument and peer out of the top of her crown. What a lot of people don't realise though is that you used to be able to go even higher, all the way to the inside of the torch. That all changed during World War I though. German secret agents blew up a munitions depot near Ellis Island, damaging the statue enough that the public were no longer allowed to climb up to the torch. The arm was repaired in 1984 though, which means that although you're not allowed in it, the secret torch room still remains. At number 5 now, we have Trafalgar Square. After Big Ben and Buckingham Palace, Trafalgar Square might be one of London's most popular tourist spots. There's the big lions, there's the fountains, there's Nelson's Column, but hardly anyone notices this, a tiny room disguised as a lamppost. It's actually a fully functioning police station. The Lilliputian police station was built in the 1930s to serve as a watch post for the police in that area. The whole idea was that any police officer who was caught up in a riot or a protest could just duck in there for a bit for cover. It's so small that it only fits a single police officer, or I guess 2 if the police officers are, you know, comfortable with each other. Next up at number 4 now, we have Radio City Hall. If any of you guys are from New York, you may have heard of Radio City Music Hall. After opening in 1932, it went on to become known as the showplace of the nation. In recent years, it's hosted political conventions, boxing matches, and even the NFL draft. During its construction, the architects built a secret apartment for Samuel Rothafel, one of the designers. After he died in 1936, the apartment was left unused and pretty much forgotten. Because of this though, it's remained remained perfectly pristine inside, just as it was left. Everything there looks just like it did during the Art Deco era that it was constructed in. Some people find it cool, others find it creepy. What do you guys think? Moving on to number 3 now, we have the Lucky 7 Lounge. At the Pixar Studios, an animator called Andrew Gordon once stumbled across a human-sized hatch in the back wall of his new office there. The tunnel led to a room used for access to air vents. He and his colleagues started to decorate the secret room and even installed a camera in the corridor to see who was coming. Pixar owner Steve Jobs used to visit this space, as well as the likes of Tim Allen and Randy Newman. Some of their names even remain on the wall to this day. At number 2 now, we have the Colosseum. More than 4 million people visit Rome's Colosseum every single year, the 2,000-year-old amphitheatre used by the Romans to stage everything from animal fights to gladiator battles. Not many people are aware though of the labyrinth of secret rooms and tunnels underneath the Colosseum. Today, many of them are hidden from public view, but back in the Roman era, they used to house animals such as elephants, leopards and panthers. They would then be pulled up to the main arena using a pulley system. Alright, back to New York now for our number 1, and we have the Empire State Building. I've been up this building twice as a teenager. It was amazing. You get to see New York from the 102nd floor, which is the observation deck. What I didn't know at the time though was that this wasn't the only observation deck. There is actually another, less known but higher up one on the 103rd floor. It's closed to the public but apparently not celebrities. Taylor Swift once posted pictures of herself up there. It's thought that this room was originally meant for passengers to climb onto airships that would dock on the buildings. Airships stopped being a thing though after the Hindenburg disaster, but this hidden high up room still remains.
Starting off this countdown, we have the creepy tiny hand. In June of 2018, archaeologists working at the Roman fort of Vindolanda found this very creepy lifelike miniature bronze hand. Like, it even creeped them out. They were like, whoa, what the hell is that? Anyways, the hand was found near a temple that was devoted to the god Jupiter Dolichinis. Apparently a mysterious cult would worship Jupiter there. So they think that this hand has something to do with all that cult and worshipping things. Others think that the hand was left there as an offering after a major invasion in Scotland in which a number of people got killed. So, hands down, it's probably cursed. Get it? Hands down. In our 9th spot today, we have the out of place bones. So let's talk about Stonehenge for a second now. There's already so much mystery surrounding the monuments there, but things got stranger when a number of bones were excavated in the area. Now, finding bones at a historical site is not new news, but the thing with these bones is that they came from more than 100 miles away. So the people that were buried there weren't even living there. So that means that people would carry the dead people's bodies to Stonehenge and then bury them there. And scientists still aren't sure why. Even if it was just a burial site, why would people transport bodies from miles and miles away just to be buried there? It must have had some significant purpose. Coming in at number 8, we have the monster cows. Now if you guys know me by now, then you know I absolutely love cows. But what I didn't know is that back in the day there used to be giant cows that they called monster cows, now referred to as Auroch. These monster cows were double the size of normal cattle, and they were big enough to provide food for 300 people. So yeah, they were chunkers. Well, in 2018, archaeologists discovered hoof prints from this cow. Sadly, engineers working in the area accidentally punctured a large hole through a structure near Stonehenge and then destroyed some of the cow print. In the area, they also unearthed cow jaws. Now here's a crazy theory. Some researchers believe that Stonehenge was built with the help of these monster cows, which is how the giant stones got transported there. The cows lugged them around. This hasn't been proven though, it's just a theory. In our 7th spot, we have the Valley of Golden Mummies. Back in 1996, a man named Zahi Hawass and his team discovered 250 mummies. These mummies were located about 380 kilometers west of the pyramids. Initially, they found only 105 mummies. They excavated 4 tombs, and that's when they found these mummies. All of them were adorned with chest plates and were covered with a tinge of golden colors, hence why they were given the name the Golden Mummies. All of them were around 2,000 years old, yet they were in pretty damn good condition. As they kept searching, more and more mummies were found. It's believed that over the years, 10,000 mummies have been found, which is absolutely insane. In our 6th spot today, we have the Black Sarcophagus. In July of 2018, a massive black mysterious sarcophagus was found in Egypt. It apparently is over 2,000 years old. People were so scared of this thing, they're like, don't open it! They thought it would contain a curse that would end the world. I mean, it was very strange. Sarcophagus are often painted and are bright and have details on it. This was just a sealed black granite case. When it was opened, it contained the remains of 3 Egyptian army officers, as well as nasty reddish brown sewage liquid. If you've seen the hashtag sarcophagus juice meme, then you know that this is where it came from. But honestly, with how the current state of the world is right now, maybe opening the sarcophagus did unleash a curse. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the underground labyrinth of death. Archaeologists working at a monument in Peru in 2018 have discovered 35 interlocking underground secret tunnels. They didn't actually go explore themselves, so they sent down these robot things to search the temple. Well, while down there they found a number of creepy graves, as well as several people buried underneath rocks. They believed that these people were sacrificed in rituals and then buried in this labyrinth. Hence why it's called the Labyrinth of Death. It's just filled with dead people. If you thought the Paris catacombs were scary, wait till you go to this place. Archaeologists are currently doing studies on the bodies buried there to figure out more about this area and, the dead people. In our 4th spot, we have the lead-encased hearts. In 2015, archaeologists exploring the convent of the Jacobins in France found something pretty shocking. They found 5 lead-shaped hearts. Upon opening them, they found 5 human hearts on the inside. So the case was symbolic of what was on the inside, a little heart with the heart inside. It's cute, kind of. The heart-shaped urn locket things dated back to 400 years ago. Now, of course, they didn't want to destroy this discovery, so they did a number of tests on the hearts, including MRIs and CTs. That's when it was revealed that most of the hearts had a disease. Most had plaque buildup in the heart's arteries. Turns out that it was common during this time period for someone to be buried with the heart of their husband or wife, and that's kind of cute. It shows that you have their heart or they have yours forever. Coming in at number 3, we have the gerbil teeth. The Lothagim North Pillar site in Kenya is the oldest and largest cemetery site in Eastern Africa. Over the years, a number of treasures have been unearthed there, from ivory rings to jewelry made out of beautiful colorful gemstones, and even gerbil headdresses. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Archaeologists unearthed a headpiece made out of 405 gerbil teeth. First off, how many gerbils did they need to complete this project? Second, why gerbils? Third, who the hell counted all those gerbil teeth to know that it was actually composed of 405 teeth? These are the questions I need answers to, people. In our 2nd spot, we had the Neanderthals. Over in Goyet, Belgium, scientists made a shocking discovery. They unearthed a burial site for Neanderthals. Most of them were eaten alive by other Neanderthals. 6 of the individuals had marks on their bones that suggested that other Neanderthals were carving their flesh off of them and then eating them. They had clear signs of cutting and fractures in their bones. The eaters would do this because it would allow them to extract the bone marrow from the bodies. So that's great. Back in the day, humans ate one another. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the pit full of heads. As you can imagine, this is as horrifying as it seems. So while working at the Great Wall of China, archaeologists found a number of interesting items. They found thousands of jade items and axes and scepters, and then they found a pit full of severed heads. They found about 80 heads in 6 pits under the city's walls. It is believed that they were all victims of sacrifices during the city's founding ceremony, and all of them were young women. In fact, after analyzing the bones, it showed that they were not from the area, so they were kidnapped, taken as captives, and then sacrificed.
At number 10, the Golden Gate Bridge took 4 years to build. Construction started on January 5th, 1933 and was officially opened on May 28th, 1937. It stretches over a kilometre across the Golden Gate Strait, a body of water that was named by a surveyor who said it reminded him of a harbour in Istanbul called the Golden Horn. Now there are a lot of bridges longer than this one these days. For example, the Danyang-Kushan Bridge in China was completed in 2010 and it's about 60 times the length of the Golden Gate Bridge. Mental. So it's not big by today's standards, but at number 9, before the Golden Gate Bridge was completed almost 80 years ago, people actually said it would be impossible to build. Now the people of San Francisco had always talked of a bridge that would link San Francisco to Marin County, but the dimensions of it seemed just too big to overcome. The gap between those 2 points is over 2 kilometers, with waters that are over 100 meters deep. They said powerful winds and dense fog would make it difficult to build and maintain a bridge, and it would be just 12 miles from an earthquake spot that tore down bridges back in 1906. And to top all of that off, it would also have to be tall enough to let ships pass underneath it. Basically, many people thought it was just wishful thinking, but in the 1920s, technological advancements in bridge building and financial support for the project got people thinking, well, wait, okay, maybe, just maybe this might be possible. Spoiler alert guys, as you can tell from this video where I'm talking about the bridge itself, it was possible. They did it. At number 8 now, the Golden Gate Bridge has a very distinctive reddish orange colour, and its official name is International Orange. It's the colour used by people when they want an object to stand out from its surroundings. NASA use it for their spacesuits, the NFL use it for their footballs, and the Tokyo Tower in Japan is the same colour to stand out to nearby aircraft. Even my shirt is kind of similar to that colour, like international orange colour. Basically, if visibility is low, international orange makes things stand out, so it makes sense that in the foggy San Francisco Bay Area, where ships pass through every day, they would paint the Golden Gate Bridge in this colour so that it would always be seen. A much better choice than Oompa Loompa Orange. Coming in at number 7 now, and let's talk about the Halfway to Hell Club. Now I know it might sound like a motorcycle gang, but it's not. The Halfway to Hell Club is the unofficial title for the men who fell from the bridge as they worked on its construction. They got saved by a safety net that cost $130,000 at the time. It was essentially the same sort of thing they use at circuses in case the performers fall, except this one was the size of the entire bridge. The Halfway to Hell Club consisted of 19 men who owed their lives to this net. If it wasn't there, they would have fallen the 200 feet into the icy waters below. Remember guys, safety first, always. On to number 6 now. The Golden Gate Bridge is visited by tourists all over the world at all times of the year. According to the Golden Gate Bridge District, it attracts around 10 million visitors every single year. Now the crowds mainly visit in summer to get the best views and the best weather. I mean, I don't blame them at all. The Golden Gate Bridge Welcome Center was renovated in 2011 to provide people with information, exhibitions and merchandise. In fact, they're so tourist friendly, they want you to experience it without ever having to actually visit it. Their website hosts a virtual bridge tour and exhibition. I haven't tried it yet, but I think I'd rather join the 10 million people who actually visit it for real. At number 5, the Golden Gate Bridge is often referred to as an American icon, and like other well-known American icons such as the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty, the Golden Gate Bridge has appeared in a ton of different movies over the years. In Superman the movie, we see a school bus saved from falling off the Golden Gate Bridge by Superman. We've seen James Bond battle Max Zorin on it in 1985, even the Hulk scrapped on it too back in 2003. It's even been destroyed by people, everyone from Magneto to Mega Shark in that forgotten classic Mega Shark vs Giant Octopus. If there's one thing that movie makers like doing more than putting iconic landmarks in their movies, it's destroying iconic landmarks in their movies. But at number 4, we're going to be talking about how the bridge really did almost get destroyed in real life. Now it wasn't by a supervillain or a giant shark, but it was by visitors who were just walking on it. When the bridge opened in 1937, the city let visitors walk on the bridge before opening it up to traffic. Years later, in May 1987, San Francisco held a celebration for the 50th anniversary of the bridge opening, and they wanted to do the same thing. However, they did not expect so many people to show up. Apparently 750,000 to 1 million people turned out, and poor crowd control meant that the bridge became congested with 300,000 people in the middle. Now the sheer weight of all these people started to flatten the bridge out, and it visibly sagged 10 feet in the middle. Sounds pretty terrifying? because it pretty much is. One person who was there that day said they were glad that the crowd did not panic and stampede, otherwise it might have been one of the biggest tragedies in living memory. Alright guys, moving on to number 3 now, and in January 2014 it was estimated that more than 2 billion vehicles had crossed over the Golden Gate Bridge since it was opened in 1937. Now you have to pay a toll to use the bridge, so they can use that information to make very accurate estimations about how many people have passed over it every single year. Now we don't know who the 2 billionth driver was to go over the bridge recently, but they did take a guess at the 1 billionth. On February 22nd, 1985, they stopped a random car that was crossing the bridge on the day that the 1 billionth driver was said to pass over it. That driver was a dentist called Arthur Molinari, and he was declared the 1 billionth driver to cross the Golden Gate Bridge. He was even given a bridge construction hat and a case of champagne. I'm sure he had lots of fun with that. At number 2, the Golden Gate Bridge is actually the second most used suicide spot in the world. Now it's estimated that someone jumps to their death from the bridge once every 2 weeks. Since its completion, that total number sits at around the 1600 mark. There is even a suicide prevention initiative in place that promotes a special telephone for people who feel suicidal to call it, and in 2014, after years of petitions, the Golden Gate Bridge Board of Directors approved $76 million in funding for a 20-foot wide steel net that would extend for the entire length of the bridge, because it's thought that one of the main reasons why this is a suicide hotspot is that sadly it's just far too easy to jump that barrier into the waters below. But guys, let's try and not end on a sad note, because our number 1 is the fact that the Golden Gate Bridge is actually a wonder of the world. Now although most people watching this might think about the pyramids or Stonehenge when someone mentions wonders of the world, they're actually pretty ancient ones, and in 1994 the American Society of Civil Engineers came together to publish what they thought were the 7 wonders of the modern world. The Golden Gate Bridge made the list as one of the most remarkable civil engineering achievements of the 20th century. They praised it as the longest suspension bridge in the world from 1937 to 1964. Now that's not bad for a bridge that many people said would be flat out impossible to build. Now perhaps that is why it's the most famous bridge in the world. Not because it's the biggest or the longest bridge, but because people still see it as this impossible bridge that had stood the test of time for almost 80 years now.